I didn't believe the stories about our woods, not until the night something watched me from the tree line, not hiding, not afraid, just watching. At first I thought it was a hunter, then I thought it was a neighbor, then I realized it didn't move like either. That's when I made my first mistake. I looked back. They say if something in the dark wants you to see it, it's already closer than you think. I learned that standing on my porch in the cold, lantern light shaking in my hand, counting breaths while the woods counted me back. Everyone in town knew to keep curtains shut after midnight. I didn't, and the next night, it came closer. I live at the edge of a small town the highway lost 20 years ago. Our road signs lean. Our gas station closes early. My place is a single-story cabin with a tin roof and a porch that groans like an old man when it rains. The lot backs right into state forest. Black spruce, tamarack, and a narrow deer path that looks like a stitch through torn cloth. Nights here are honest. Wind through needles. The creek arguing with the rocks. Owls making the kind of sound that convinces you language existed before we did. I work odd jobs, fix things for folks who remember my father. He taught me that if you respect the woods respect you back. The routine is simple. Dinner at 9. Tea at 10. Lock the door, check the latch on the shed, feed the cat. Her name is Matchstick, an orange streak that burns from one window to the next. Then I sit with the porch light off and let my eyes adjust until the stars look like nails hammered into a black board. The first odd thing wasn't the figure, it was the silence. 3 nights before I saw it, the creek went quiet to my ears. Not in the world, but for me, like I'd stepped into a pocket where sound refused to come. Matchstick hissed at the back door for no reason. I found muddy half-moon prints along the deck, as if something wet had stood there, deciding whether to knock. I told myself it was raccoons. I told myself it was a strayed hiker. I told myself anything except what people in town say when the subject turns to our woods after the second beer. That sometimes the forest doesn't want to be empty, so it borrows the outline of a person to keep itself company. The second odd thing was the phone line. I still keep a landline for storms. Twice it rang at 2:11 a.m. Twice there was nothing, not static, not a breath, only the clean sound of a held-back word. When I said hello into that glassy quiet, Matchstick's tail puffed. She stared at the back window like someone stood there, listening through the pane. The third odd thing, the one that hooked into me, was the feeling of being counted. I don't know how else to put it. I would stand at the sink washing a cup and feel eyes slide across the house, pausing on each window, as if the rooms were beads and I was the string. On the 4th night, a Tuesday, windless and cold, I stepped onto the porch with a mug and a lantern. The tree line, 30 yards away, lay as a single wall of deeper dark against the sky. The path that cut down to the creek made a V like a mouth. That was when I saw it. Not a shape exactly, but the suggestion of a shoulder where the black wasn't the same black as everything else. Like a coat hung between 2 trunks. Like the idea of a person had gotten snagged there. I told myself not to stare. My father's rule. You give the woods the same privacy you want from it. I lifted the mug. I talked to Matchstick. I pretended not to see it, and when my eyes slipped back, whatever stood there had leaned, almost imperceptibly, inches closer to the open. I went inside, turned the porch lamp on, closed the curtains, and laughed like a bad actor. Then I slid the deadbolt and stood with my hand against the wood, listening. The laughter died in my throat without either of us deciding it should. The next night at 2:11 a.m., the phone rang again. I let it. On the fourth ring, it stopped. On the fifth, there were footsteps on the deck. Not cautious steps, measuring ones. Toe, heel, toe, heel. The cat vanished under the bed so quickly her collar rang like a tiny bell cut short. I didn't go to the door. Instead, I turned off the lamp and let the house breathe around me. The window glass held a weak reflection of my face, and beyond it, the porch rail like a jail bar. I counted to 50. Nothing. Then, from the back of the house, the forest side, a sound like a wet glove dragged along siding. There's a polite part of your brain that suggests reasons. Tree branch, raccoon, wind. But there was no wind, and branches don't pause. I put on boots. I took the flashlight and the old lantern because batteries lie and flame tells the truth. My hand shook enough that the light tittered across the hallway photographs like the faces were already moving. I opened the back door, slow, and stepped into a cold that felt deliberate. The kind that goes around the lantern's heat like a river around a stone. The yard was as it always is, the sagging shed, the stack of split wood banded by a strap. But the strap had been unbuckled and laid neatly on the ground, like someone respectful had borrowed a log and would return it later. I didn't like that. From the tree line, something clicked. Not a twig, a tongue against teeth. My father used to make that noise to call me in from the creek. 4 short clicks, then 1 long. I hadn't heard it in years. I answered before I knew I would. "I hear you," I said, and the woods adjusted around the sound of my voice like fabric. Let me be plain. I saw no face. I saw no eyes. I saw the negative space where a person should be. It was taller than me. Its shoulders were too narrow, like it was made to slip between things. It stood exactly where the path makes that small V into the trees, and when I lifted the lantern, the flame bent as if it had more interest in lighting the trunks to either side than the thing that pretended to be a man. A pulse went through the forest, a shiver you feel in your teeth. The footpath beyond the shape glowed a fraction lighter, as if the moon had decided to draw an arrow for me. A suggestion, almost kind. Come see. I did not go. I backed to the door. My heel found the threshold. I said, "Not tonight," like I was answering a salesman. The shape leaned, not forward, but longer, as if a shadow tried on a new size. Then it refolded itself back into the seam between the trees, and the night recovered like water. I slept with the light on and dreamed of being counted. 1, 2, 3. The number stopped before me and started again after, like someone skipped. On Thursday, I installed trail cams, one on the eave, another facing the creek. I told myself I wanted proof it was nothing. What I really wanted was not to be alone with my eyes. I called Deputy Harris, who suggested drifters. He told me to call if I saw an actual person. At dusk, I found prints along the deer path. They were wrong, not boot treads or bare feet, like something had practiced a way of walking that people would believe. That night, I sat by the back window. At 2:11 the phone rang and didn't stop. I took it off the hook. The silence had texture, like someone standing still in wet leaves. I said, "What do you want?" And the line gave me back my father's click, 4 short. one long. The porch boards whispered. I drew the curtain back. The shed door stood open, the woodpile rearranged into a shape. A number, 2, or a Z. I went outside. In the shed, the axe was upright in the center of the floor, its head resting on a scrap of pine like a nod. The trail cam caught it. At 2:13, the porch camera captured the lantern flame through the glass. In the reflection behind me, something leaned its long head to study the back of mine. The angle was all wrong for a person. The spine had an extra idea in it. The camera saw what I couldn't feel. Friday, I wrote a note and taped it to the door. If you are a person, knock. If you are not, do not. At night it was scripture. Then came the smell. Sweet rot, metallic like a penny. A soft, careful dragging along the siding, tracing the house. I spoke to it. I know you're there. I'm not coming out. You can leave. It paused. Then it repeated the words back to me from the far side of the wall. Not with a voice, but with the shape of one. It made the clicks again. 4 short, 1 long. Then the 5th click came from inside the house. I did not move. The mirror over the mantel showed only the room. When the sound faded, the house resumed being a house. I slept then finally. Fear is heavy, and a body will lay down under any weight. Saturday, I drove to town. I told Deputy Harris I'd decided I did want that drive-by. He promised to swing after midnight. I bought more lantern oil, and, on impulse, a bell, the kind people tie to shop doors. I hung it on the back door so the air would have to announce itself if it came in. Sunset bled slow through the trees. I watched it from the porch with the lantern cold beside me and the trail cam live on my phone. Twice I thought I saw a long, angled shape between trunks, a wrong geometry, and twice the screen insisted I was watching nothing but trees. At 11:54, headlights slid past on the road. The deputy. He tapped his siren once, friendly, like a neighbor. I lifted a hand. The headlights kept going. They touched the tree line and made the trees look like a stage waiting for an actor who was already behind the curtain. I decided I would not wait for 2:11 to come find me. I went to the back door and opened it and set the lantern on the threshold. If you're a person, I said, you should go. If you are not, do not, the house seemed to say back in my own handwriting. The path mouth yawned. My light reached 3 feet past the grass and became the kind of light that makes darkness interested in itself. Something shifted to my left, soft as someone standing up from a pew. I turned, slowly, and the lantern flame leaned toward the sound, like it had been called by name. What stepped half a pace forward was not a person. It had decided on that outline, but not on the rules that hold one together. Its length was wrong, like a silhouette stretched to fit a taller door. Its shoulders were where shoulders should be, but they weren't made for carrying. They were made for slipping between tight places. It had no face, not in a way my eyes could agree on, but it intended a face, and the intention was worse. Where a mouth should be, the night shone like wet slate. It did not threaten. It waited. It wanted me to solve it, to name it, to give it a place in the story where naming is owning. I said nothing. I set the lantern down and stepped back because my father's rule had one more part I had forgotten to tell you. If the woods come to your door wearing a face, don't be rude, don't invite it, don't deny it, let it pass like weather. The thing leaned, not closer, longer. The lantern hissed as if rain had found it. There was no rain. The flame stretched toward the shape and went thin, like a line drawn on air. The bell on the door gave one gentle note, as if something considered coming in and decided against it. From the trees, farther left, the 4 clicks answered. Then, from the right, another set. Then, behind me, inside the house, a single long click like a tongue finding the roof of a mouth that was not there yesterday. "Enough," I said, not to it, but to whatever listens when you don't have the right prayer. You have the night. I have the house. My voice sounded like a smaller animal than I wanted it to. The thing unleaned. It folded back into the seam of dark. The path brightened a breath as if to offer me a choice. I closed the door. The bell kissed the wood. The latch slid home. The lantern, starved, went out, and the room remembered itself around the small sound my knees made finding the floor. Through the mantel mirror, the house showed me my own face, the chair, the table, the empty doorway. For a heartbeat, 1, 2, a taller, thinner shape stood beside me in the reflection, a courtesy I did not feel in the room. It looked down at me like you look at a map when you finally find the town you were searching for. Then it wasn't there. In the morning, there were footprints. Not human, not animal, the idea of both. They circled the house, stopped at each window, paused longest at the bedroom. They ended at the shed, where the strap lay buckled neatly again. On the workbench, my father's old pocket knife sat open, blade clean, as if sharpened and offered back. The trail cam's final clip began at 2:17. It showed my porch empty, the lantern dead, the dark absolute. Then the camera glitched, not with noise, but with clarity. For one frame, the world snapped into a cruel focus. In that frame, the door stood open 2 inches. In that frame, my own back faced the yard. In that frame, a taller head leaned to my shoulder the way a grandfather leans to whisper comfort to a child who has told the truth and must live with it. The next frame was normal. Door shut, empty porch. Morning birds already inventing daylight. I keep the bell on the door. I keep the curtains closed after midnight like everyone else. I sleep when the creek says it's safe. Most nights it does. At 2:11 a.m., the phone still rings sometimes. I don't answer anymore. I listen. 4 short clicks, 1 long, the forest's way of saying a name it took from my mouth. If you ever visit, don't go out to the porch. Don't stare at the tree line. And if you feel counted in your kitchen at the sink, don't turn around at once. Because if the woods want you to see them, they're already standing where you were a second ago. I didn't believe the stories, not until I saw it. Now I keep my eyes down and my bell oiled. And when I hear footsteps that measure the deck, I tell myself what my father told me. The woods respect you if you respect them. I tell myself that and wait for the counting to pass me by. Most nights it does.